Hello, my name is Gerry Fisher. I'm a life and career coach located here in Baltimore, Maryland in the United States. The topic of this conversation is going to be career planning. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my approach and how I help clients with their career plans. What I'll be talking about in this video will be a little experience that I had recently that shows how challenging career planning can be. Then what I'll do is I'll give you a couple of tips on different ways that you can focus your attention and do some research so that you can get the information you need to feel as if you're moving forward and getting closer and closer to getting the kinds of work and the kind of career that you would really love and enjoy. So to begin, recently I was invited to a career conference where I would be speaking before high school students and college students. And the topic of my talk was going to be how to develop a quality career plan. So the way my thinking went is that it would be really great if I could help these young people and say, just take step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and when you're finished with this process, you'll have a good sense of a career direction for you that would be a really good fit. And so I put together a couple of handouts, I tried to come up with some questionnaires that they could go through so they could get a better sense. I just couldn't do it. I thought that I could actually package it and present to these young people, here, just do this simple process and you'll have a much better sense of where you want to go with your career. Instead, what I was left with was pretty much what I've experienced as a life and career coach, that career planning is not something that you sit down, that you think your way through, you do a little bit of writing, you do a little bit of planning, and eureka, you've got the absolute best career that could possibly fit you, and then you're off and running. Instead, it's really this giant research project. It's something that you have to use a lot of trial and error. You need to talk to different people to get a sense of what's out there. Internet research is certainly a part of it, or library research. That would be helpful as well. Self-assessment, really just sitting down and taking a good hard look at who you are, what you enjoy, what you love, and what you're good at. That this is a thinking it through over time process that takes significant effort, and it can also be assisted by having a good mentor or having good teachers, having people around you that you can discuss this with and bounce ideas off of. So that was a really good lesson for me, that this is not a simple process that you can just put into a step list or into a questionnaire. So that begs the question, if somebody is interested in doing career planning, then what should you do? How can you get started feeling as if you're getting a handle on what this career planning thing is all about? And what I recommend is that you think of career planning as being two distinct steps. The first step is that you need to become a really good student of yourself. And that might sound really obvious. It's like, well, I know myself, don't I? But it would be really surprising to you the number of people who have actually worked for a number of years in a really good job or a really good career, but they haven't put a lot of thought into whether they're enjoying themselves, whether this is a good fit, whether they're actually using their skills on side projects instead of the thing that they're actually being paid for. They're not being really good at being a student or being a detective or being a researcher and really paying attention to how they're feeling and how things are actually progressing, whether it's smooth or not at work. When someone is trying to become a good student of themselves, there are two things that they can look at. The first thing they could take a look at is what they love and what they enjoy. When I'm working with my clients, this is actually a really enjoyable exercise. I get up to the whiteboard and I ask people to reflect on what they've done since childhood, really, in high school, college, and in all the jobs they've ever worked. But it's not just school or work. It can also be family life or a volunteer effort. It could also be a hobby. It could even be something like, gee, I'm really drawn to these types of songs and these types of TV shows and movies, and there's a theme to the kind of thing that I'm really attracted to and that I'm really interested in. So it's this very thorough investigation of what is it that I really enjoy? What is it that I'm constantly curious about and that I'm drawn to over time? And then the second thing is that I try to help my clients to be really clear on their skill set. And in particular, when I talk about skills, I'm referring to something called transferable skills, which is just a fancy term for what are the things that you're doing in your job that are actually pieces of other types of jobs and other types of professions, so that you can transfer those skills to other types of work. So I took a look at some resumes that I've written recently for my clients, and I came up with a list of some of the transferable skills that my clients have mentioned. And I'll just read this list to you fairly quickly to give you a sense of some of the skill categories that might apply to you. So for example, people could be really good at operations. They could be good at process improvement, quality assurance, managing people, managing projects, research, data analysis, strategic planning, regulations and compliance, sales and marketing, leadership and presentation skills, and training and mentoring. And here's an important point. In your particular job title, you might not have in your job description that you are a quality assurance person, but sometimes if you look really closely at exactly what it is that you've been doing, you might notice that you've been very consistently concerned with and skilled at making sure that the product or service that you're delivering is really pleasing your clients and your customers. And maybe you do a lot of quality assurance work, but you never thought of labeling it that way. So this is why it's important to do this kind of self-assessment over time, to work with your mentors and work with your coaches, work with your managers to try to get a better sense of what it is that you're really good at and what your transferable skills are. And then finally, as I mentioned, there are two things that I recommended. One is being a really good detective and to understand yourself really well. And the second bit of advice is to become a really good student of available careers out there. Now, on the one hand, some careers seem to map directly to the courses that you might take in school. So, for example, many of us took biology in high school, and theoretically, if we're good at biology, we can become a biologist. But there are a whole, hundreds and hundreds of different types of professions that are just never listed in any kind of job manual, or they don't map directly to the kinds of courses that we take in school. As a very brief example, I worked for decades as a software technical writer, and that's a profession I had never heard of when I was in high school. As a second example, I have several nurses in my family, and if you talk to a nurse, you'll be really surprised to find that nursing goes way beyond what we see in the movies and TV shows where you go into a hospital and you see nurses. Nurses can work at schools, clinics, they can run clinics, they can be the manager, they can work with children, adults, they can do psychiatric work. They can do relief work. So if there's a hurricane or an earthquake someplace, nurses can be part of a relief effort. So nurses fill so many different roles in so many different ways and working with so many different people. And if you sense that you're potentially interested in that profession, it would really help to go talk to some nurses to find out all of the various different options that would be available to you within that larger umbrella. And then finally, to wrap up my conversation, in terms of being a good researcher involving what are the career options out there, I highly recommend that you do informational interviews. And informational interviews, that's just a fancy term for going and talking to people, essentially. And an informational interview is a chance to exchange information about who you are, what it is that you're investigating, what it is that you're interested in, and then asking the other person what it is they do for work and what advice they might have for somebody who might want to get into their profession. So nobody's looking for a job, there's no pressure, it's just two people sitting over coffee and talking about a profession like colleagues and having a very low-key conversation so you can collect information. So that about does it. I wish I had better news for you. I wish I could say I could hand you 3 handouts and you could fill them out in a half an hour and know what your perfect job was. But instead, I think what it is really paying attention to yourself, getting out there and talking to people. And every time you get a new job or you get a new hobby or you encounter a different group of people, be a real student. Really investigate what the options are for yourself and what the options are for other people in various careers. At the end of this video, we'll post my email address, and I do have, I know I just talked really badly about questionnaires before, but I do have a questionnaire, and it can be a part of a larger process of trying to understand some of the things that you enjoy doing. And if you're interested in filling out that questionnaire, I would be happy to email that to you. And then we'll also include the web address of a character survey. And the character survey is one of the better ones that can help you to get a sense of what your personality traits are and how that might map onto activities that you would probably find to be more compatible and more enjoyable. So thank you very much for watching this video, and good luck in your career journey. Take care.